Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and this video is an update on the Cattleyas, mostly Cattleyas that I've chosen to grow under my new Growlight. So let's see what's going on with them. Okay, welcome to my video update on the plants that I've chosen to grow underneath the Growlight. And you've probably seen my recently published video, which is just kind of a review of the Growlight that I'm using. And there it is up there. So I'm going to link to that at the end of this one. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Now we're going to have a little update on each and every one of these plants. I hope the video won't take too long. We'll do my best to keep it short and snappy. But I guess the first thing I really have to start talking about is the monster in the room, and it's this really big plant here. And the good thing about this Growlight, I imagine longer term, is that it can be used for big plants like this. Now the problem with a very big highlight plant like this one here is that when you have it in a house and on a windowsill, it grows towards the light, so the flower spikes tend to twist and turn and get contorted in a horrible way. But if you have a Growlight that's above, like the sun or this Growlight, then they can grow straight. And I'm very pleased to tell you that I have two decisive and long flower spikes developing this year on this particular plant. And I made a video where this plant was actually divided earlier in the year, and again I'm going to link to that at the very end of this, because we all like to see these monsters getting divided, although you'd never know it had been divided now from the number of enormous pseudobulbs that it has. So I'm really looking forward to a flowering of this one, and it'll be its second flowering, and hopefully those spikes are going to grow really tall. So just moving to the right of that very big plant, and you see what I've had to do is nothing can go behind that plant because it casts such a shadow, but I think, yeah, it's worth it just to get that one growing straight. Now what we have here is King George Serendipity, I beg your pardon, which is a plant with lots and lots of root growth, doing really well. Now if we look closely at the leaves, you will see some evidence of scale. See that white in there? And what happened was, when I came back from holidays in the Azores, 4 of my Cattleyas actually had scale on them, so I gave them the bleach treatment. And what we're looking at here is dead scale, because nothing will survive that. Now I'll link again to that video about the bleach treatment, which is a great way of getting rid of any kind of pests on an orchid, but just don't use quite as much bleach as I did in that video, and wear gloves. Yeah, so this plant, it has a sheath in there, but I still don't see any darkness coming. Would love to see this one in a flower, so our fingers crossed. To its right we have another big plant that was recently potted on into this giant bowl, and this is Coastal Sunrise, which is an orange flowered Cattleya with Laelia anceps as one of its parents, and that has resulted in very tall spikes that the flowers appear on. And this year we have one sheath down here coming with the darkness in it. Now this plant flowers twice a year. There's that dead scale there. So yeah, I mean, it has new growth pushing up down here, but basically it's suffering from having been divided so many times now at this stage. So I've decided to just leave it be and give it a chance to kind of establish and perhaps push out some new growth further around the plant, because it's very lopsided now, although it's a big plant. I removed all the new growths from all the way around, so it's only flowering on one side, which is not ideal, so we'll see how that goes. But we will get one flower spike in any case before very long. Okay, so just moving over here. Oops. And here's my Rhyncholaelia glauca, or Digbyana, I beg your pardon. And this is one that we saw recently when I made that Cattleya video with Roger, and as we pointed out, there are several pseudobulbs that have kind of died of old age on this plant. Yet strangely, this one over here on the left is new and emerging from an area which has mostly dead pseudobulbs, which is odd. Now this is a highlight plant which has never flowered for me, hence the use of it under the grow light. And this one is right slap bang in the middle of that light. So what we're going to look at now, the next few plants we're going to look at now, are ones that are really underneath this light, and I hope the best from. So we'll just move the beast out of the way here and have a look at the next highlight plant, which is Rhyncholaelia glauca, I think. Yeah, glauca. Also never flowered for me. And I lost a lot of this plant due to a rot earlier in the year, but it has stabilized now. Now you can see it's pushing up new growth. 2 new growths. There's a second one under there. So, well, I don't know. I hope it will flower, but the setback it received this year doesn't augur well. We have one non-orchid in here among everything, and this is my Joshua tree that John Greco in Barcelona sent me, and I just put it in here. Poor little thing, so slow. Over here we have a Cattleya gaskelliana, grown from a seedling, giving it a lot of light, and I'm just trying to work out what this one is doing. I think it has a new eye which is plumping up in here somewhere. No, I can't seem to find that at the moment, but yeah, we'll put that down here. Behind we have another species, Cattleya, and this one is Warneri. Now Warneri isn't really a very good species Cattleya to grow in a house because it needs a lot of light at a time of year when we can't give it, so that's why I am hoping that this one will do well up here. It's kind of dormant at the moment, as much as Cattleyas ever go dormant, not doing anything much as is its habit in the winter, and that's that one. Okay, next plant I want to show you is a cutie with these round leaves, and I got into trouble in my last video by mentioning that the sheath would come from there, when in fact this is one of the unusual Cattleyas where the flower spikes emerge from the base. So that is what we will be looking out for, and in fact I had known this, but I had forgotten by the time it came to make the video. That's what happens when, you know, you have a plant for so long and it hasn't flowered. You kind of forget what to look out for. But this one has really fat roots. It's doing well, giving it as much light as I possibly can. And, you know, these are the newer pseudobulbs, which are quite big. That one is less big. And that one is big. So I think, you know, well, you can see the history of what has gone through there. It was bigger, it got smaller, and now it's bigger again. Oh, we shall be hopeful. Next plant is a Laelia perrinii, and this plant has some markings on the leaf which I took as indicative of the fact that it wasn't getting enough nutrients. So I've been feeding it well, and the new leaf, if you just see, I'm in my own light here, but the new, or it's in its own light, the new leaf is less marked than the old. So, I don't know, we will be hopeful. Put that back there. Next door we have Laelia aurea, which is doing well. The latest pseudobulbs are much bigger than the others, but no sign of flowers as yet, or spikes or anything. Put that back. And down this corner we have Sophronites, or a hybrid Sophronites called Louise. And this one is producing a new growth there. I have no doubt that this one will flower when that new growth matures. It will need a pot next year, that's for sure. There's the new growth, doing really well. This is a hybrid I got from, I got a good while ago, and it has suffered. I think it was a back division from a large Cattleya, some of the smaller pseudobulbs. So it's had, well, it's produced smaller pseudobulbs, and then this is the most recent one, which is quite small as well. So yeah, it's not doing terribly well. Here we have my last remaining Vanda, and this one is potted and producing more roots outside of the vase, and yeah, we'll say no more. Over here we have a lovely plant, Cariad mini Quinee, and this one, if we look in here, can you see something in there? Now I think that might be a sheath or a bud without a sheath. I think this one produced sheaths before, I can't remember. It's a healthy plant, but it's lopsided in its pot, as you can see. And now when I repotted it, it just had a lot of roots over there on the right. So I had to plant it in this weird way, but it'll need a repot anyway after it flowers. Lots of roots coming out all over the place, as they tend to do with these holy pots, so I think they're just really good for Cattleyas. Okay, now we're going to move over to this other side of the table and pass by there. There's the big boy. And I suppose we could start with the big ones. Here we already talked about Coastal Sunrise, and here beside it we have this is a Rainbow Gypsy, and this is a beautiful hybrid Cattleya that flowered so beautifully not very long ago. And the older pseudobulbs, as you can see, have kind of withered and gone. Perhaps in slightly too big a pot. I didn't have one smaller when I was potting it, but I actually potted it at this level, so it's in slightly smaller pot than you might think from looking at it, because it's actually potted at this lower level, which is narrower. So anyway, I don't see much going on. The newer pseudobulb is smaller than the others, which is not a terribly good sign, but it did flower last year, so yeah, we'll see what it does. And at the back we have a couple of ones that I'm going to talk you through. I will just move this fellow a bit out. And here we have my Gulf Green Hair Pig, which is this guy here, which suffered, I think that is sunburn on that leaf there. It's certainly not moving anyway. And roots, not making a new pseudobulb as yet. And there's the newest pseudobulb, which is this one here, has no sign of a flower, so I think this one really has a way to go yet before it's flowering size, unfortunately, because I'd love to have that plant in flower. I might just buy a flowering size one, who knows. Okay, behind it we have, this is a species Cattleya as far as I recall, right, Cattleya leopoldii with a bit of broken root attached. And this one would seem to be doing really well. Like, it has lots of roots, and they're out and they're all over the place. And that one is dead, but we have green tips somewhere. Well, this one kind of branched down there. And it has these skinny pseudobulbs, which personally I'm not really a fan of now. Mostly bifolia with 2 leaves. But in that instance there, just made 3 leaves. And Yeah, not doing anything visible at the moment. Behind it we have Epidendrum, the yellow Epidendrum, the one called Galaxy. And this one is growing well. Skinny pseudobulbs again. And a new growth there. So maybe I will get my first flowering when this one matures. I would hope so. Over here we have a plant that sustained some sunburn in the greenhouse in the summer. And this is a blue flowering one called Ballet Folklorico, just reading the label there. Now it's very close to the edge of the pot, producing lots of roots over the edge. So it needs a repot, but I was just kind of waiting for it to do something before I do that. You see, there's an eye in there, a swelling eye, so that's going to be the new pseudobulb. So, well, I think a repot in spring for this one anyway. And I think I'll just move around here to show you these last two Cattleyas. And I am very pleased with this one. Do you hear those pebbles rolling down the stairs? Okay, this is my CG Roebling Sentinel, which was originally an enormous plant. And, well, I'm not going to go into the history of what happened to it, but suffice it to say that this is what I'm left with now. And I had two divisions, and this one I choose to keep because it had the largest number of pseudobulbs as opposed to the one with the most root, which Alberto in Italy got. And for ages and ages and ages, these pseudobulbs were so shriveled, it was actually unreal. Now, it flowered last year, but it was a sad kind of flowering just because of the state of the pseudobulbs. I thought they'd never plump up again. And as you can see, that these are the original pseudobulbs. The newer ones were smaller. So I couldn't wait for it to get going and produce good roots. What I did was I actually put some sphagnum on the top just to help keep moisture in, because the roots, bad roots, were the reason why that this was desiccating. And now, look at it. Look at those fat pseudobulbs. I'm absolutely delighted because it means that this plant has turned a corner and it's going to do well and it's going to continue flowering and grow big and meaty, and so delighted. Now, having said that, this is where it flowered last year, and this pseudobulb is smaller, but it has a sheath, and there is actually a darkness in that sheath, which I am having difficulty showing you at the moment. So it is going to flower for me this year, and I will let it because I love this one so much. It's my favourite Cattleya. And what I also see down here is that there is a new growth pushing out. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, so it's just in here. See that? And it's going in a direction where it has space to go, so okay. So that's CG Roebling Sentinel, primary cross from Purpurata, and it has blue flowers, and I'm really delighted that it's going to stick around for me. And the last Cattleya I want to show you is this Innocence one that I bought in Madeira when I was there a few years ago. Now, again, it's a lopsided plant. Older pseudobulbs have died. Definitely needs a repot because it's so out of the edge of the pot, it's unreal. I was waiting to see some new growth or activity before I repotted it, but I think it's so squished up the edge of the pot it really can't do much. So I'm going to leave it till spring, and in spring I'll repot this regardless, and I hope it'll be okay. And last but not least, I had somebody ask about my nobile dendrobiums, and actually I only have one, which is this one here. It's the Comet King one, a purple one. And these are nobile hybrids, so they really don't need that kind of cold, dry rest that the species have, and I just treat this like an ordinary plant, maybe water a little bit less in winter, and it's doing okay. I don't see any sign of flowers yet, obviously, because it's an obile. This is going to flower from here, from kind of like the joints, that kind of place there. Yeah, maybe there's a little something happening there, a little bit of swelling, but yeah, so that's that. So my particular winter care or winter regime for this plant is not is not significant. Gets the same treatment as other plants. Now this one is actually just beyond the recommended area from the Growlight, so I may need to move it somewhere else because it does need high light. And I have a couple of cakeys here. This is one of which has a second growth growing, and yeah, I don't know, will that flower? We will see. Okay, and that brings me to the end of this video update on the Cattleyas I've chosen to grow under the Growlight. I hope you liked it, and I hope it's of benefit. And if so, give the video the thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed already, consider subscribing to my channel, because it's of benefit to me, and I don't think it costs you anything, does it? Okay, that's all for now. Thank you, and happy growing.